You know, there's this 9-digit number issued by the IRS that unlocks a hidden multi-billion-dollar part of the American economy. It's not a social security number. Nope. It's called an ITIN. And it's this crucial, often misunderstood key to a really complex puzzle.
So, how does this whole system actually work? We're going to break it all down. We'll start with the problem that created the ITIN in the first place. Then we'll look at how it became this official workaround, and then something much more, an unofficial key to financial life. We're also going to get into the risks, what some people call a tempting database, and finally, we'll look at its undeniable multi-billion dollar impact.
All right, so to really get the ITAN, you have to go back to the problem it was created to solve. And it's a classic case of a legal requirement just slamming into a real-world barrier. Think about this for a second. The law in the US is crystal clear. If you earn money here, you have to pay federal taxes. It doesn't matter what your immigration status is. But the entire system is built around the Social Security number. So what on earth are you supposed to do if you don't have one? Well, that's the dilemma that millions of people find themselves in. And that's where the IRS comes into the picture. They needed a way to bring all these taxpayers into the fold, and their solution was an official, but not very well known, workaround. And here it is, the Individual Taxpayer Identification Number, or ITIN. Its purpose is super specific. It is just a tax processing number. It was created for one single reason: to let people who don't have a social security number comply with U.S. tax law. And here's a little pro tip for you. You can always spot an ITIN because it starts with the number 9.
Now, what's so fascinating here is how this system has gotten tougher and tougher over the years. It started back in '96, pretty straightforward, but then look at 2003. Suddenly you have to file a tax return with your application. Fast forward to 2012, and the documentation requirements get incredibly strict. And then in 2015, they even added an expiration date. You can see this clear trend toward tighter and tighter control.
So what does it actually take to get one of these? Well, let me tell you, it's not a simple request. It is a real gauntlet. You can't just ask for an I-10. No, you have to fill out the application, attach a complete federal tax return, and then you have to submit some very serious original or certified proof of who you are. The system is literally designed so that you can only get an I-10 in the very act of filing your taxes.
And this is the starting line, the Form W-7. I mean, at a glance, it might look like any other government form, but don't be fooled. It's a detailed declaration. It forces you to hand over a ton of sensitive personal info, and then back every single piece of it up with official documents. It's a huge bureaucratic lift.
And these documentation rules are no joke. The IRS has a list of 13 documents they'll accept. But look closely at this chart. The only one that checks all the boxes by itself, the only standalone document, is a foreign passport. If you don't have one, you're forced to combine other documents, like maybe a birth certificate plus a national ID card. For a lot of people, that's a massive hurdle. Okay, now this right here is probably one of the most important things to get right. An ITIN is just a tax number, period. It is not authorization to work, it does not make you eligible for Social Security benefits, and it has absolutely nothing to do with immigration status. This is where so much of the confusion comes from. Okay, so we've nailed down the official purpose of the ITIN, but the story doesn't stop there. Not even close. In fact, this is where the ITIN takes on a whole new life of its own, way beyond what the IRS ever planned. Because even though the ITIN was just made for filing taxes, it's had this profound, completely unintended consequence. It's become a key. And this is the big reveal. The ITIN has become a de facto key to the entire U.S. financial system. Think about it. Because it's an official number from the government, a whole bunch of banks, credit unions, and lenders will accept it instead of a Social Security number. This lets millions of people open bank accounts, get credit cards, take out car loans, and even get mortgages. It pulls them into the formal economy. And hey, this isn't some backdoor hush-hush thing. You've got financial institutions like Embold Credit Union openly advertising these programs. I mean, this quote right here is all the proof you need. It shows a parallel financial system has been built around the ITIN specifically for a population that would otherwise be completely locked out. So, this brings us to the real heart of the conflict here, the central tension of this entire system. The ITIN offers a path to inclusion, but it also creates this centralized database of incredibly sensitive information. It's a very high-stakes balancing act.
Now, officially, there's supposed to be a legal firewall. It's called Internal Revenue Code Section 6103. And this law is famously strict. It's designed to be this ironclad wall protecting all taxpayer data, making it illegal for the IRS to just hand over information to other agencies, like ICE. The whole point is to build trust in the tax system. But despite that legal wall, the fear is very real. Listen to what advocacy groups have been saying. They've pointed out the obvious. This whole system creates what they call a tempting database. The very fact that all this information is collected in one place creates a huge risk that some other government agency is going to try to get their hands on it for something other than taxes.
And that fear isn't just paranoia. There are actual legal cracks in that firewall. The info can be shared if there's a federal court order for a criminal investigation. And maybe more importantly, there's pressure from within the system. The Treasury's own Inspector General has gone on record saying they're frustrated that these privacy rules stop them from using the data to address what they call unauthorized work. That shows a real desire to use this information way beyond its original purpose. So with all these moving parts, all these risks, and all these workarounds, what's the bottom line? Well, when you look at the economic contribution of the ITIN system, the numbers are just staggering. Just look at this number, $5.8 billion. Let that sink in for a second. That was the net tax contribution to the U.S. Treasury from ITIN filers in a single year. This isn't some tiny side program. We're talking about a major source of federal revenue. And that money is coming from a massive group of people. We're not talking about a small fraction here. As of late 2022, there were almost 6 million active ITINs being used. That just shows you how widespread and absolutely necessary this system has become for a huge part of the population. And that really gets to the core function of this whole thing. The ITN takes a part of the labor force that could easily stay in the shadows and makes it visible, quantifiable, and of course, taxable. It formalizes their economic impact in a way that nothing else really can. So, we're left with this fascinating paradox. You have a system that was designed for one thing, tax compliance, but it's morphed into a key for financial access. It generates billions of dollars, all while operating in this gray area of trust and risk. So what does the existence of this officially unofficial system really tell us about the American economy and that delicate balance between who we decide to count and why?